something that I've always dabbled in and been involved in, I suppose. From childhood I would have painted the odd picture and that, and I did art in school. I never actually painted outside of school until probably after my dad had died. I think the first serious picture I ever painted was at a row with my mother. I went stomping down to the bedroom and I pulled out my art and with a palette knife I put a painting together. I'll actually show you a picture of it later. And I had it done in about 15 minutes. My mother came down and she came in the door and she goes, "Oh Marie, that's lovely." And I said, "You're just saying that now because we had a fight, you know." But she still has it hanging in her bedroom, and that was my first ever painting. A fishing boat out in a really rough sea. So I'm from Killybegs in County Donegal, and we always lived beside the ocean. We used to be able to open our kitchen window and talk to the fishermen unloading their boats. We were that close to the water. We had a bar, so that was my connection, I suppose, with the water and the ocean to begin with. Then I did a few paintings in my teens, around 16, 17, and when I was an au pair in France. And then I didn't paint for years until my first husband got very sick, and I started painting, and he used to enjoy just watching me paint. But after he passed away in 95, I just hadn't the heart to paint again. So I only took up the paintbrushes about 8 years ago and got started back painting. My husband suggested, after an illness which left me unable to continue working, just as something to help distract from the pain and pastime, and I started painting, and here I am. I started working in RTE back in 99, initially doing office work. And then I went back to university to study health and safety in UCC, and I got the role of health and safety advisor for the network in RTE. That was all the sites and the masts all over the country would have been under my responsibility, health and safety wise. So I was on the road a lot, and I travelled all over Ireland, highways and byways and up the top of mountains and places that most people in the country have never seen, and I was really lucky. And the scenery was just amazing, and I used to come out and I'd make my lunch going on the journeys instead of going into somewhere for a sandwich, and I'd sit on top of the mountains and I would just look out at the beauty of Ireland, really. So from all the spots, as I said, 170 sites all over the country, so that was a huge influence on memory for me when I paint now and I look at the ruggedness of the mountains or the ocean, that kind of thing. So my last couple of years in RTE, I was working in the studios in Cork, very much with the production team. So I was out on the road in the summers with Taste of Success, and I was working on the Today Show with Maura and Dahi. And I taught myself autocue, so I was the autocueist on that. But I suppose looking at set design and the designers coming in and what they could pull together, and all of that showed the possibilities and what you can do with art, or with a little lick of paint here or something hanging there, and it can change a whole atmosphere. So I suppose, and I had started doing a little bit of editing, and I think all that showed me what's possible and what you can do, and I suppose it gave me a great confidence actually to be able to experiment with my art. So back issues are something that I've dealt with most of my life. I had a diving accident back when I was about 20. I was in France. Left a lot of damage to my back, which was missed over the years. So on and off through the years, I've had slip discs and ruptured discs. This time in 2014, I was still working full time, and I had a 6-year-old, 8-year-old, my eldest, 14 and 17-year-old. I had a fall in my kitchen. The chair kind of went from underneath me, but 2 days later, my back went, and I thought, this is the usual thing, you know, to be back again in a couple of weeks, I'll be able to walk again. And I was bedridden, but it just wasn't getting better. It was getting worse and worse. I actually, for almost 10 months, I was mostly bedbound for those first 10 months, just leaving the house to go to hospital and doctors and trying injections. Nothing was really working. The pain was absolutely unbearable. I was on a huge amount of morphine and other very strong medications, just trying to manage the pain. They didn't, as I said, they weren't working, and the doctors didn't know what was wrong with me. So my husband then just thought, why not try a little bit of art? Because all I was doing was reading, because I had to lie flat quite a bit. And my initial reaction was, I can't even sit at the dinner table for dinner. How can I sit at an easel? So he got me a fabulous easel that moves up and down. Of course, in between, I was able to go and lie on the couch or lie in bed. So it wasn't something I had to sit at for ages. As I got involved in the painting, I remember, I really can't sit for any long periods of time without standing and moving. And I would start painting and the pain would go. It was such a distraction. I remember one day I must have been sitting so long painting and I'd forgotten about time, forgotten to stand up, and the children came in from school and I was like, oh my goodness, I've been here so long, and I just couldn't stand up. I had to get two of them to actually help me to get to the bedroom, and then I lay flat for 2 days afterwards. So that's what painting gave me. It gave me a purpose, and it gave me a total distraction from pain. So I was able to get lost in the artwork. I did that for a couple of years. Nobody saw my work until a neighbour spotted it, came in one day for coffee, and they were all hanging in the sitting room. I told my husband that really you should make a Facebook page for Marie. That's how I started. My artwork seemed to catch people's eye. Started selling my artwork from Facebook, and now I'm in 4 galleries and a couple of other shops and that. But I have to say it gave me a connection to people again, because my work was always with RT, meeting people and interactions, and I loved my job. I became very isolated, and we do tend to identify ourselves and value ourselves in accordance to the work we do. So I felt that I had no value. I wasn't even a good wife or housewife anymore. I wasn't able to work. And then with the painting, people started texting and saying, oh, that's beautiful, that's lovely, and commenting on my work. And I got reconnected with people. I got permission from photographers to use their work to paint. And that grew, and it gave me back a little bit of my identity. So I'm still working on that. I still miss my job even after all these years. But the painting has been absolutely huge. And really, I never would have picked up a paintbrush if it weren't for my husband, Dave. He was the one that really encouraged me and supported me, and he still does. So right down to my website that he's managed to put together for me lately. So he's my other half. Couldn't do it without him. So my painting is very varied in style. People say I do abstract, I do the ocean, flowers, the cityscapes. I'm not one of these artists that are able to do the same painting over and over again. Now and then a similar painting will come along. I paint with whatever my emotions or my feelings are that day. I see a picture and it just inspires me that I have to paint it. I was so lucky in my previous job as health and safety for RT that I have covered this country from quiet lanes to mountaintops and ocean fronts. A lot of my seas and that would be from memory, and the lovely waves, the crashing of waves, the sound of it. But then a lot of the other ones are from photographs. So I have one painting called Catching Up, and it's of my home place when I was young in Killybegs, painted during COVID, and it was a photograph that I saw online. So I love the idea of the catching up in COVID, that they were outdoors and able to talk, and it had my local beach in it. That was those memories, and it evokes that memory when I look at Killybegs. The other ones I have an Enchanted series. So I'm very interested in the mythological side of Ireland and the history, ancient history of Ireland, the Druids and that kind of thing. So in one of my paintings called Step Into the Light, if you go in closely in the steps into it, there's all the old runes, the old writing and carvings of ancient Ireland that have symbolisms and meanings, the Celtic knot and the hair and things like that. So my Enchanted series is all of that, and it's from my head. Then I have the cityscapes, I call them the impressions of. So it's impressions of Cork City, impressions of Kinsale, so the iconic buildings in around the city. If I see a picture and it just resounds with me, I paint it, and that's really how I choose my work, from my head, my heart, and from the wonderful photographers out there that when I'm not able to travel as much and I'm not able to climb the mountains and hit the beaches, I feel so fortunate to have, the Wild Atlantic Way. Even that, the posts on those pages are incredible, and I've got permission from a lot of photographers there to actually use their work as inspiration. Movement through colour, I think, came about. I had somebody leave a review on one of my paintings, and the review, I can't remember it exactly, but it was sort of worded, I never knew you could capture the movement of the sea in a painting and feel the waves and the splash. That's what I find with people when they look at my artwork, and I get a lot of that feedback that my paintings really are full of movement and full of life. For me, I suppose I was hugely energetic before this arthritis really took hold. Part of my job in RT was climbing the mast, so I had done my mast rescue course and climbing. I loved gardening, walking, swimming, you name it, I did it. For me, my movement is very limited now. I use a stick most of the time. If I have to go any great distances around the house, I'm all right with walls. So I think my painting and movement through art, my memory of movement and freedom. I can still swim. I love getting into the water. And I just find that people seem to feel that from my work, that there's a lot of movement in it and a lot of life. And that's very important to me.